What's up, everybody? It's your boy Benton. I'm here with CryptoLiveLeak.
So I still feel, even though we are 10 years into the blockchain space, I still feel we are pretty early on.
All right, well, Bitcoin's cool. I'll buy some. What now?
We're going to see more developers focus not on just the protocol, but also on creating like a really smooth user experience and maximizing the product's usabilities.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Benton. I'm here with CryptoLiveLeak. I'm here with my friend Shamir. He works with Algorand, and wanted to just talk to him today and kind of see what's going on. So, Shamir, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes. I live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. My job title there in Algorand is I'm Marketing Programs Director. I'm relatively new with the company, but I've been admiring it from afar for over a year now. I actually ran the first Algorand Hackathon, which was really cool when they were still in testnet. Okay. And just really privileged to work at a really cool company that's building really exciting technology.
Awesome. Now, what is Algorand's mission, and kind of what has their impact been so far in the blockchain industry?
So we're very, very nascent. Mainnet was launched in June of 2019. Which is, again, less than a year ago. And then only 3 months ago, we launched our Algorand 2.0, which essentially is atomic swaps and smart contracts. We've had some really exciting use cases demonstrated over the last few months, and there's some more to come. So Tether launched on Algorand 3 weeks ago. We recently announced a really interesting initiative with the Marshall Islands, who are launching the world's first national digital currency, and they chose Algorand as their platform of choice. On the other side, there's a lot of ecosystem development going on, hackathons, we have grants, we're building content, but we're still very, very early in the process and really looking to build that ecosystem. The tech is really exciting, but like as a marketer, I can tell you that's not enough. Now is really the time to start kind of refining how we talk about Algorand and where it is that we're trying to go. We're really interested in the financial side, so open finance is something that's really interesting to us. And there are a number of other things that we'll probably share over the next few months. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, can you kind of walk us through and unpackage what is open finance for those people who don't know what it is?
So open finance is sometimes synonymously used with DeFi. The way we look at it at Algorand, DeFi is DeFi is decentralized finance. Open finance is kind of this broad idea where anyone has access to money, to a bank account. It might not look like a bank, right? It might be a wallet, but really the idea is to democratize wealth and make enable anyone to be able to participate in the economy. That would include banks, right? So kind of that top down. And the way we talk about it is that's how it's different from DeFi. So whereas you're seeing a lot of DeFi happen on Ethereum, really exciting projects like MakerDAO and Compound, those are all kind of ground up initiatives, right? Where it's just the community is participating in building and using these tools. Open finance would include that, but also kind of your more mainstream financial institutions, central banks, even commercial banks. But again, using technology that makes using money a lot more accessible.
Okay, and what markets or developing areas do you feel like that tech would have the biggest impact on?
Well, not here. Go talk to people on the street and tell them why they need Bitcoin or DAI or USDC, and it'll go past them. We're definitely in a bubble here in the U.S. I'm really excited about Africa. I think there's a huge need there. There are over 2 billion unbanked. Last I checked, or last I heard, in the world, a lot of them are in Africa, a lot of them are in Asia. I think those are really where you're going to see traction in these parts. And the interesting thing is that might actually leapfrog the West in many cases. Well, yeah, you saw it in China with the mobile revolution. Okay. I lived there 10 years ago, and mobile phones were a thing, but digital payments were not. And now in China, no one accepts cash. Wow. And you compare that to what's going on in the U.S., it's very, very different. different. I would expect similar dynamics to happen in those kind of underserved countries because they have the need today, and this technology has the potential to solve a lot of problems for them.
Now, why do you think China has shifted over to using just digital currencies as their main way of trading value, as opposed to the U.S., where maybe we still have fiat currencies as where cash is king? How do you think that developed, and do you think the U.S. would ever head in that direction in the next 5 to 10 years?
There's a lot to unpack there. What I will say is, I'd show you my wallet. I don't have room there for coins. Right, so let's start with that. Right, like actually using cash is friction. If I have something like this that I can just swipe, right, or scan within 2 seconds, then there's much less friction. So I think, kind of from a peer perspective, we're living in a world where there's a decreasingly the need for cash is decreasing. I'll also add that China, with the regime as it is, like they're having things digital makes monitoring what's going on much easier. That's also probably one of the incentives for central bank digital currencies. We have to be realistic about that. Like that's something that's worthy of discussing, right? So being able to identify or potentially, and this could be a bad thing, right? But potentially almost discriminate with digital currency if the government can turn it on and off or customize it, personalize it for a certain industry or a certain vertical or a certain audience. So I see a lot of really interesting potential there, but it can kind of go both ways, if that makes sense. Sure. But again, back to your original question, yes, purely speaking, I think my guess is we're within the next 10 years, cash is going to become a very it's going to become an outlier. Like it's not going to be what people actually use.
Okay, and talk to me a little bit more. How did you get involved with blockchain or crypto, and what interested you to be able to make this jump into the industry? Yeah,
I first got into the space in 2014. I heard of Bitcoin. At the time, it really was Bitcoin and kind of all these other copycat cryptocurrencies, if you will. And I started going to meetups. I was living in Ann Arbor. I went to a meetup in Detroit, had a chance to meet Andreas Antonopoulos. He just came. He was like there. I didn't really know him. Like I kind of knew who he was, but it was like an hour sitting with him where I was just like sucked down the rabbit hole. Have not looked back since. I will say it kind of, at that point I was like, all right, well, Bitcoin's cool. I'll buy some. What now? And I didn't really have a good answer as a marketer. But then in 2016, with the rise of Ethereum, with me kind of reading the white paper, looking into how this technology works and understanding the potential of smart contracts, that's when it was kind of take two and, okay, like this is way beyond crypto, right? Cryptocurrencies are, they're an application within the much broader world of blockchain. Then I started organizing meetups, organized the Michigan Ethereum meetup with a buddy of mine, and then moved here and just was as active in the community as I could. Got on the ground floor with the Boston Blockchain Association, organized 2 hackathons last year. So yeah.
Awesome. Now, for those folks at home who have no idea what blockchain is or crypto, but they're interested, they want to know more, what would you recommend to those people to do to just get involved, to learn more about it if they want to pique their curiosity?
Yeah. Well, YouTube is your friend. There's so much to look through there. Arguably, maybe too much. So start with Andreas Antonopoulos. That's probably a really good place to kind of catch that bug and understand not just how, right? Like that's okay how the tech works, and it's really important. Don't get me wrong, but really why. Andreas does a really wonderful job at refining the why. We're all here, and if you're a curious individual, I think it's one of the more complex fields that you can even think of, that you can imagine, because it involves and incorporates like so many different disciplines. Mathematics and cryptography and economics and social behavior. So it's a really kind of diverse world, for better and worse. Right. On one hand, that makes it really harder to digest and wrap your head around. On the other hand, it almost guarantees that no matter what you're passionate about, a certain component of that will be reflected in this ecosystem, right? So I'm passionate about growth in marketing and delivering value to an audience. I feel like blockchain I wish blockchain had more people who were talking about that, about the real world use cases, about taking something to market, right? So I guess that's kind of my niche in the broader space. Other people build the really important technology, but I feel like, there's so much information out there. Watch YouTube, go to meetups. If you live in a city, there's likely at least one blockchain related meetup in your area. There are also a lot of online things going on. We were just talking about it, right? There's almost like a content gap now with a lot of conferences being canceled. So, dial into some of the live streams that are going on. There's definitely a lot out there.
Now, for the industry overall, from a marketing standpoint and from more just of a general macro standpoint, where do you see blockchain developing and really harnessing its power here in the next 5 years?
Where do I see blockchain making an impact?
Right. So from like a marketing standpoint, when you're trying to build your brand, for example, Algorand, how are companies going to be able to capitalize on that for mass adoption, and what direction do you think that's going to head in? Is it going to be more based around the development? Is it going to be more based around the application to other problems that exist in the world? What do you think that looks like?
So I think we're very early, even though some people say, what, like Bitcoin's been around forever. No, I mean, Bitcoin's been around for, 10 years and maybe 11, right? You have Ethereum's been around for 5 years, 4 years. You're only seeing second generation blockchains like Algorand launch now, last year and this year. So just it kind of, to add some kind of historical context, we're very, very early in the process. I think we're still at the infrastructure phase, which is why this industry is so developer focused, so kind of, again, tech focused. It needs to be, because we need to build, a nice analogy that I've heard from a friend is it's much more like building hardware than software with blockchain, because you can build something, but once you launch it, it can't break. If it breaks, you're pretty much screwed, and that's just a huge liability. So kind of that slow and steady approach, I think, is really important. As for kind of where we're going to see that, I don't have a good answer. What I will say is I really I'm fascinated by the ground up dynamic that you're seeing in like an Ethereum ecosystem. Again, the developers, the grants, the hackathons. Consensus has all these spokes. So basically, these startups, right, of individuals that are building really potentially cool applications, and they're building layers on top of each other. Ethereum's just a great example of that. And then you have the top-down dynamic, right, which is enterprise industry organizations solving existing problems. The weird thing is that's where the low-hanging fruit is, right? That's where they're the ones who can actually pay the money today. For the disruptors, for the anarchists, the libertarians. They don't want that because that's just more of the same status quo. I could see that argument, but to me, like, what's really going to be interesting is when that ground up and top down dynamic they mesh, and I think we're waiting for that point in time where, again, those ecosystem seeds that are starting to sprout, right, basically meet the enterprise and solve real problems from them today, and don't just allow efficiencies or good PR, right, like we're seeing with a lot of the proof of concepts, but actually solve real world problems that allow 10x growth. I think that's where it's going to be interesting. I don't want to disappoint anyone, but we're a few years away, it's going to be an interesting few years. So I'd say, like, if we could hit that point in 5 years, that would be wonderful. But the next 5 years are going to be really, really cool and interesting to kind of observe, definitely a big test for the industry, which is going to inevitably correct itself, and find those efficiencies.
Okay. Yeah. Now, in respect to Algorand, do you have another company out there that you feel like has a lot of potential other than your own in the space itself that you kind of keep an eye on, or something that you feel has the most potential to succeed in the marketplace?
It's a tough thing to answer. There are a lot of really interesting projects. I'll tell you, a project that I'm really passionate about, I drank their Kool-Aid a couple years ago, is MakerDAO. Okay. So Maker, they build they have technology that basically locks up collateral, and based on that collateral, again, issues DAI. When DAI is a stable coin, it's a decentralized stable coin. I don't know that Maker is going to be kind of, that that thing that will allow us to hit that tipping point, but I can say that they played the game, like I mentioned, like that slow and steady, like, you know, taking one step at a time and very consistently building community, making sure that their technology is used in different applications. So yeah, shout out to Maker. I know some of their team. They're really awesome people. And in that kind of DeFi space, I think Maker is a really interesting project.
Now, in your opinion, how do we attract entrepreneurs, business-minded people, marketers like yourself to this industry? Is it more of an education issue, or what is it in your opinion?
Education is an issue if people want to consume content, right? Like someone wants to. I think the people that we have right now in the space are thirsty for knowledge, and that's their primary motivation. But to hit mainstream, that's not enough. You need actual incentives, right? You need to be able to pay someone to either build something on the side or leave their job and actually, you know, spend full time building it. You need to create community, and again, Ethereum does this really well. You need to bring people together. You need to give people a sense of meaning. So you know, again, taking a step back, I think the industry, in order to take that step and go mainstream and get people involved, needs to become much more accessible, much more kind of, let's call it novice friendly. And at the end of the day, let's also kind of just reality check, right? Like slap in the face. Mm-hmm. And let's remember, not everyone needs to know what blockchain is, sure, right? Like only the people building on it need to know. And then the end consumers don't necessarily have to know that it is blockchain. So we need to get to that point. Like again, step one, make it accessible, make that onboarding for developers, for connectors, marketers, salespeople, UI, UX people, right? Make that onboarding, I guess, you know, lower the entry barrier and make the onboarding much easier and much more seamless, and then help them build tools that actually solve real world problems. And once that happens, then we go mainstream and blockchain doesn't even matter anymore.
Why is that?
Because it's not about the tech, it's about the problems that are being solved.
Okay. Yeah. And with Algorand community building, what are some things that Algorand is doing to help build that community?
Yeah, so we there's Algorand Inc. and there's the foundation, and the two are split completely because they're two separate entities that are allowed, even from a regulatory perspective, to do very different things. And I should probably be careful about what I specified that they can do. But what I will say is that the foundation is in charge of that component of it. So they have they give out grants. We have a number of different forums for community, whether it's Slack, whether it's on Telegram, whether it's the developer. We have a developer tools platform, and which we're, by the way, also creating a brand new one. So putting a big focus on that, on making the the SDKs and all the tools that developers will need as accessible as possible, and providing that support. I think that's kind of the key step for us. And then on Algorand Inc. side, it really is more about having those high-level discussions with governments, with central banks, with industry organizations, with consultancies, that are looking for a suitable protocol, suitable technology to serve their already interested clients. So again, it's that bottom-up, top-down dynamic. We're very active on a wide number of fronts. Again, because of the complexity of this business, you almost can't not be. Right? Like you have to kind of spread a very wide blanket. That said, it'll be interesting to see over the next year how we have all these different, like initiatives and implementations that already exist. But granted, they are spread out. So I mentioned the Marshall Islands. The World Chess Organization announced a hybrid IPO. So one is going to be in the London Stock Exchange. The other one's going to be launched on Algorand. So you have all these really interesting. Oh, okay, that's interesting, right? But I think a key is also to find that position within the much broader, more saturated ecosystem. Well, how is this different from Hedera Hashgraph or R3? Well, we're open. Well, how is this different from Ethereum? Well, we're much faster, more scalable, more secure. We already have the tech. So again, it's finding the right value propositions and tailoring them to the right audience. That's a work in progress. It probably always will be, because in this space, things develop so quickly, and it's like a moving target.
Okay. And what do you feel like are some of the biggest hurdles from Algorand's perspective, and then also just from an overarching blockchain perspective?
Hurdles for what?
Hurdles for the industry to accomplish mass adoption.
I mean, I think I mentioned a lot of them. I think it's awareness. There are two things. One, you need the tech to actually be ready,
sure.
And in most cases it's not, unfortunately. Again, I don't want to disappoint too many kind of newbie viewers. It's not yet, but that's actually why it's a good time to join. So I think the technology needs to be there, and then once the technology is there, it's a matter of making it as accessible and digestible for the end users. And again, those end users might be IT departments in large corporations, or they might be my mom, right? That's sure. Using some app that helps her track something in a better way, or perform some kind of peer-to-peer transactions. Sure. But again, either way, those things need to happen, and it really is just a process. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of time and having kind of enough smart people working on this technology. And by the way, that's the reason I'm in. Like, yes, I'm, kind of curiosity pulled me in, but when I realized, wow, we get 60-70% to the small meetup that we run in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I realized this is just one of thousands mm-hmm. of meetups all over the world. And I was looking at the people who were coming. They weren't there. It wasn't about like crypto. It wasn't about like buying Bitcoin, having it 2x or 10x. It was about building really, really interesting technology. And that was my aha moment. It was kind of realizing, well, it's all about talent. Just like with a startup, you want to primarily bet on the jockey that you believe will be asking the right questions and pivot when needed, and like you trust them. Even if the idea isn't quite there, you trust they'll get there. So if I look around, if you look at the people who are here, probably the other people that you've interviewed, sure. I think that's a really, really encouraging sign.
Awesome. Well, that's going to bring us to our fire round. We got some hard-hitting questions. Hard-hitting questions. I'll be real quick here. So for you, is there anything, a person, place, thing, idea that you feel like has influenced your career or just you as a person?
Just a general idea?
General idea. So like, was there a person that mentored you, into the space? Was it a book that you read? Was it a movie you watched? What exactly do you feel like had like a biggest influence on you?
Yeah, I mean, I'll give a shout out to a book I'm reading now for like the third or fourth time. It's called Crossing the Chasm. It's about technology adoption. It was written in the early 90s, but it's been revised several times since, and it's as relevant today as ever. It talks about how we get everything we just talked about. Basically, how you get from a technology that's being used by visionaries and early adopters, and how you take it to your mainstream people who don't really care about what's going to happen in 5 years. They have real problems now that it solves for them. I read it for the first time, I guess, when I was in college, and it just changed my perspective on how to look at certain things in this, in technology.
Excellent. Now, last question for you here. Big pizza guy. I'm trying to find the best slice of pizza here in Boston. Do you know where I could find the best slice?
I'm probably not the best person to ask because, I've only been here for a year and a half, but I do like pizza.
Okay.
And, one that I had the other day, All-Star Pizza.
Okay.
I recommend All-Star Pizza. They give you like these double slices, so it's basically like a quarter pizza, and they have really creative toppings, which I like.
Right on.
Yeah.
Now, where can people learn more about Algorand, yourself, anything like that?
So I'm on Twitter. You can find me. It's at Ozery, Ozery. Algorand is at Algorand. Online, it's algorand.com. You can also look at the foundation website. Again, if you're a developer, that'll have a lot of the links probably for learning more. So algorand.foundation. That's a good start. Find us on LinkedIn and Telegram. I don't know the Telegram channel, but just look up Algorand and I'm sure you'll find it.
Awesome. Shamir, thank you for your time today. This has been awesome. You have just dropped absolute knowledge to the dome today. I appreciate everything that you've done. Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, CryptoLiveLeak, and also CryptoLiveLeak.org. Over and out, guys.